I think we might be going live now. Maybe. Maybe. Oh, we're live? Oh my God, we're live. It only took YouTube 4 hours to catch up with me. All right, so that's cool. All right, folks. So this week I'm going to get started in just a minute. Cheri Reisch is joining me, and she's running, excuse me, out of District 44. So we're going to bring her up in just a moment. Let me get something to clear the crud out of my throat. There, maybe I got it now. All right. Let's get this recording started. Let's get this interview started. Let's rock and roll. All right, folks, and we're back with another edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. Thanks for joining me once again. Appreciate, as always, the views. The views on YouTube are constantly going up. Downloads are still good. You know, the networks are still carrying me, so I guess we're doing something right. Again, thanks to all the listeners. And if you're watching this on YouTube and you haven't subscribed yet, or you haven't hit follow, please do that. Please like and subscribe on basically any podcasting app that you can find. I will be on there. I would appreciate the likes, the follows, the subscriptions. Get those, get those numbers up, and that way more people see the stream, and maybe they find the podcast, and we can continue to spread the message of freedom and liberty here in Missouri. But again, as I stated right before I started recording, this week I'm joined by Cheri Reisch. She is out of the 44th District. Now, she is running again for her fourth and final term in the House of Representatives. Cheri, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. I want to thank you for having me on. I'm really excited because liberty and freedom are two words that I love.
Well, that's good. So I guess we'll start off like I normally do. Excuse me. Give us a little background on yourself, a little biography, if you will, and then we'll get into the hot topics.
So I'm a seventh-generation Boone Countyan. My Toalson maiden name family came here in 1815 before Missouri was a state, and my grandchildren are ninth-generation Boone Countyan. So my former life, I was a certified municipal clerk and a certified court administrator and ran a city and city court. But for the last 10 years, I run a very busy law firm in Columbia, Missouri, and I was mayor of my town of Hallsville from 2012 to 2016, and my House seat came open, and I decided to jump in, and I won overwhelmingly every time in a 50-50 district, and so now I will be, unfortunately, with term limits, going into my fourth and final term at the November election. I live in a little town of Hallsville, love my kids, my grandkids, and my dog.
All right, so I guess to start off, I mean, I know, people have said that you're a part of the conservative caucus, which is normally on the right side of almost every topic or, every bill or what have you. But you've also garnered most conservative female in the House of Representatives. Let's start off this way. Are there certain things, what are some things that you think Missouri can improve on? What kind of bills in your fourth term would you like to maybe try to put forward to improve the freedom and liberty of people here in the state of Missouri?
So many things. Number one, more education reform, more education choice. There's too much crap going on in our public schools. My own grandchildren who live outside of Boone County are now being homeschooled. There's too much things like transgender closets in Columbia Public Schools, kids that think they're animals and pooping in litter boxes in public schools like Columbia. We need things like keeping biological males out of girls' sports. We need more medical freedom. If you want a job, your employer should not make you get the vax and things like that. We need lower taxes, less red tape, less government. And that's just the starters.
So I was a quick pause here because I was unaware that Columbia schools were that far gone. I didn't realize they literally had litter boxes. I was unaware of this.
Yes, there's a few up around the Kansas City area, but Columbia now does also, and I'm sure there's others out there I'm not aware of yet. I would be glad for your listeners to please email me or call my office if you're aware of other things. I'm in a lot of education groups, but Columbia is just off the charts. I sit on the House Education Committee, which is chaired by my fellow colleague here out of Boone County, Chuck Basie. And he tried so hard to keep boys out of girls' sports. But it had everything we do in the House. We work hard. We get our job done for it to go over and die in the Senate and filibuster in the Senate. And they can't get their job done. They need to get their act together. And it's so discouraging and so maddening to see that we're supposed to be the majority or supermajority, and we can't get anything done. It's crazy.
Okay, you talked about the vaccine, especially when it comes to employment or everything. Now, Susie Pollack had a great bill that the floor leader decided to murder, and another gentleman by the name of Rudy Veit decided to murder, and then they just had to, I believe that Susie just said, heck with it. I don't like the bill in this form. Just throw it in the trash. So
let me preface it with this.
Okay.
Susie is a very good friend of mine. I am working hard to try to get her elected to Senate, to a guy who some people refer to as rhinos. We have a lot of those in Missouri who vote more with the Democrats than they do the Republicans. Her bill was awesome. Her bill was what Missouri needed. And not only was it squashed, yes, you're right, Representative Rudy Veit got up and lied on the House floor. He flat out lied to the House members, the public. Our hearings are live streamed. And she has championed children to not cut off healthy body parts for kids under the age of 18 and go through hormone therapy and cut off their body, mutilated, because they're paraded in our Capitol offices. And I've had to sit through hearings where these parents bring in little children, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, and they think, well, their kids want to be a boy or a girl when they're not. And it's a dysphoria that is a mental illness, and it's child abuse. And if we can't stop it, I'm so tired of the Republicans being reactive to this kind of crap insteid of proactive. And why we can't get stuff done to protect our children of this state is beyond me.
I agree. Once they're adult age, that's up to you. But I wholeheartedly believe if you got a 6-year-old and they say, well, I want to be, you got a 6-year-old girl and they say, I want to be a boy, that's when the parents got to look at him and say, you turn 18, you're an adult, you're out of the house. That's up to you. But
absolutely,
we're gonna see. Now they'll try to hide the facts, of course, but we're gonna see the harmful medical effects, which we're already seeing a little bit because people are sterile, all these things. These hormone blockers are not allowing kids to actually go through puberty, stunting their growth, everything. If this continues, we're going to have a whole lot of people 10, 15, 20 years down the road who have all kinds of medical issues because people were too dumb to let their kids naturally grow and then make a decision in adulthood instead of living vicariously through their kid or trying to, make their kid some kind of trans superstar and mutilate them. If you're a parent with a moral compass, I don't know how you can do this to your kid and feel like you're championing some good and righteous moral cause. That just confounds me.
Absolutely. And this whole Leah Thomas, he was a mediocre swimmer and then decided he wanted to win. So, let's just say I'm a girl. Well, what about the women? I played competitive sports in my younger days, And no way can a woman compete against a biological male. Absolutely not. And where's the Me Too movement to stand up for women and women's rights? What about the girls that are being affected by this?
Yeah. Now, I have a question, because this comes up with a lot of people, a lot of the candidates that I've interviewed that's running for the House. Some people in a group are wanting the House floor rules changed, because it seems like one or two people, like Susie Pollock's bill was one of the 3 most popular bills in the House this year, and it just got crushed, along with the removal of sales tax from groceries, and I believe it was the Stand Your Ground Enhancement Act. The 3 most popular bills got put on a calendar and then forgotten by the House floor leader. Would you like to see
Absolutely in favor of rule changes.
Okay.
It's top down, and it's sad because all 163 of us, including Democrats, were elected by our peers to represent their district. But yet, 1 or 2 people, the speaker and the floor leader, get to decide what gets referred to committees, what gets to come to the House floor. But also there's this thing called rules committees, where your bills also go to die. So, it's just everybody should have equal treatment, whether they get to prioritize their top 3 bills and at least get them through the committee, give them a chance to come through the House floor for debate, and then vote them up or down. It's not fair, and it's not right. And yes, there should be changes. I am looking into that along with some others. Change comes slow. I don't know that it can happen. You know how majority rules, and a lot of times, you can speak up and then you get blacklisted. It's happened to me.
Yeah, it seems like the thing with Susie Pollock's bill was a little personal, coming from the House floor leader. That's my take on it. You don't have to respond if you don't want to, but yeah, I feel like...
no, I do.
Yeah.
Susie is my friend. I co-sponsored all her bills, and she is spot on. She's been in the healthcare field for decades, and she loves children, and, the right to choose whether you give your children the vaccine or not, and all these other transgender issues. She has researched this. She knows what happens to the body. And I'm telling you, I'm not vaxxed, and I'm not going to get vaxxed.
Yeah, me neither. I just refused. It got developed too fast. There's too much shady stuff with COVID. So bringing that up, let's just, I pretty much know what your response is going to be, but what was your reaction to seeing even just like localities or counties locking down, shutting down businesses, or cutting them to 25% capacity? And what are your thoughts on these, to me, in my opinion, tyrannical health department leaders and what they did to local businesses here for darn near 2 years in some counties?
Well, I experienced it firsthand in the People's Republic of Colombia in the county of Boone. Our health director for the city and county shut businesses down who didn't want to be shut down. It should be their choice. And it hurt business. We had businesses go under that struggled once they couldn't qualify for the PPP loans. And I work at a law firm that we were considered essential. We never shut down. But all the ones that were forced to, or you had to wear a mask, again, it's a choice. A mask isn't going to stop a virus. Okay? I see a guy going by my window yesterday on a bicycle wearing a mask. Really? People in a car by themselves wearing a mask. It's ridiculous. So the plan that elected officials, where it's a city council or a county commission, if a health director comes up with an emergency health order, it can only be 30 days unless a elected body votes to extend it or to do something different. That they have too much power for being an unelected bureaucrat.
Yeah, I'll wholeheartedly agree with that. I mean, it's that's what I try to get across to people, that, you're letting an appointed official who, they're not beholden to the voters. They're beholden to the city council, the mayor, the alderman, whatever, county boards, they're going to try to please their masters. They're not going to do what the people want them to do. They're going to try to please their masters, or they're going along with the Fauci and the idiotic CDC. So, why are you going to let somebody? This is the thing that gets me. These people that own these businesses have to purchase licenses, which licensure aggravates me to begin with. So you have to beg the government to open a business, and you pay them an extortion fee. That's my opinion, an extortion fee to open your business.
Yep.
And then what do? They turn around and say, oh, tough crackers, you have to shut down anyway because we said so. I mean, how much more insulting can you be to the people who elected you than people who are just trying to run a business and produce a service or a product to people in the marketplace, and you want to instill so much fear that you will literally ruin the livelihoods of those people. It's not
the American way.
No,
it's not. That is not right at all.
Oh, I could go on about that subject for hours. But I've spent so much time on it, I don't want to talk about it. But I like to get the representatives' takes on it. So, now everybody here every week, same question. Your thoughts on the Second Amendment Preservation Act?
So I co-sponsored it all 6 years in the House. I was at the bill signing when the governor signed it into law, and I 110% support the Second Amendment. And back in February 3rd, 2017, I was just sworn into office a month prior. We had 3 Republicans, Senator Caleb Brown, Representative Chuck Basie, and I, and a League of Democratic Women Voter Forum, and who are so far left, with 300 crazy liberal people that had Trump derangement syndrome, were threatening our life. And what happened was the security that moonlights there at night called in sick. And so I'm like, oh, my God, Representative Basie is a Marine. He's a man. And I said, Chuck, I'm an old fat grandma. I can't outrun these people. I can't do hand-to-hand combat. So I called 911, and I said, I want the police here now, and I'm a concealed carry permit holder, and I've got a gun in my purse and the right to carry it. And they went ballistic because I talked so loud. Someone overheard me with the 911 operator, and I broke no law. Public libraries are not one of the 17 places you can't carry legal in, and I threatened to sue the Columbia Library, and they had to change their sign that say, instead of no weapons allowed, weapons prohibited unless authorized by law. And their attorney told them, yep, Representative Reisch is correct. She had every right to carry concealed in this library and broke no law. And by golly, I will protect myself and my family, because I've had an assassination threat the day President Trump came to Columbia, November 2nd, 2018, to stump for Senator Josh Hawley, who was going to be on the ballot. He wasn't senator yet. And one of my constituents, a crazy nut job that probably lived in his mother's basement, said on Facebook that Cheri Reisch and Donald Trump need to be assassinated. So you know what I did about that after the Columbia Police and Capitol Police got a hold of him? You got to hear this. The next day I went and knocked on his door. I looked him up, got his name, got his address, what car he drove, all public record, and I said, sir, I told him who I was, and I said, I hear you want me assassinated. Here's my business card if you want to talk about it. And I left. I'm not going to take bull crap from people. I'm not.
Whew. Okay.
Plus, the People's Republic of Colombia have slashed my tires 5 times, so most state reps and senators have personalized plates. I don't have personalized plates. I have a vehicle that blends in with 10,000 other vehicles because of the insanity, the socialist communists I have to deal with daily.
Wow. Okay, I was unaware that there was that kind of nutty. I mean, I knew Columbia was circling the drain of the toilet ever so
they're
slow.
down the toilet. They're in the sewer lagoon. Yeah. They're too far gone. I mean, so let me give you an example. People are flocking out of Columbia Public Schools in Columbia. So they all living out in the bedroom communities where I live and that I represent, so they can go work their job in Columbia, but do not want to put their kids in that public school. Teachers are quitting. I mean, they're told, guess what Columbia's been doing? You don't turn in your homework, you get 50% for doing nothing. They want you to get a 60% so they can pass you to the next grade. So they can average 50% or a 70% on a test equals 60. You're out of here. You're on to the next class. That's crap. You get 50% credit for doing nothing? It's a farce. The NEA is behind all this and all these liberal wing jobs with all the transgender closets now for Columbia Public Schools. You go to school as a girl, but you can be a boy all day in Columbia schools without your parents knowing about it.
Well, yeah. Okay, so
I could go on all day. And
Yeah.
you want to hear about my Twitter lawsuit?
Oh yeah, let's
What
hear
the
about.
Trump derangement syndrome did?
Let's hear this.
So what started with Donald Trump in New York City because he blocked somebody on Twitter, all the liberal left thought, oh, what a great idea. Let's do this nationwide. So then the governor at that time, Matt Blevins of Kentucky, he won his suit. There was a senator in Ohio that lost his suit. There was another state rep, Rebecca Raber, that later died from a car accident, was being sued for Facebook. And I had our very own Representative Kip Kendrick bash me on Twitter. He's running for presiding commissioner of Boone County, and I hope he loses because he's a piece of work. But my socialist opponent in 2018 refused to do the Pledge of Allegiance or put her hand over her heart, and I called her out on it on Twitter. And he said I was unbecoming, that I was bad for calling her out. And so all these people got jumping on me for that, for calling her a socialist. And so a guy I blocked moved in my district 2 months before he slapped a lawsuit on me, and I won. So I now have the right, as do other people. I could block you on my Facebook page or on my Twitter if I want to, because the court says I can.
Okay.
Right now, an Alaskan senator is being sued, and I've been consulting with her with my attorneys and my case, and I hope she wins her case. You know what? What I say on my Twitter is my business, and you don't have the right to bash me just because I'm an elected official. If I don't want you on my Twitter or Facebook, sorry.
Yeah.
If you want to email me, fine. You want to call me, fine. You want to talk to me face-to-face, that's redress of the government. You come see me, you call me, you email me, you fax me. And this guy, he thinks Missouri is a country, has had warrants for his arrest, says he's been in the Capitol, but doesn't even know how to look up my number or email or that I have an office in the Capitol. It was just pure Trump derangement syndrome.
Well, that. Well, you sure know how to fire people up, don't you? You know how to get right under their skin. Just.
You know, people love me or hate me, but they know where I stand, and there's no bones. I've been called every name in the book, and that's okay, because I speak my mind, and people love me for that. I did a thing on a road study in my district that MoDOT was doing. You know, there'd been some crashes, and here was my answer on Facebook, and you all can look it up. It's Cheri Toalson Riesch, and I said, here's the problem with that road. The road's fine. It's people are drunk, the people are on their phones, and they're not using blinkers, they have no tail lights, et cetera, they're not paying attention. I said they have their head up their butt. And so if they pay attention, we wouldn't have these car wrecks for no reason. And people are like, yep, Cheri, that's why we love you.
Okay, so I have this is a question that I haven't been asked before, but let's get your take on it. This isn't a Missouri issue. I get some interesting questions once in a while. Someone wants to know your take on Julian Assange. What is your opinion of Julian Assange?
I like him. I think he's doing good by leaking out things that the American people should know. and I hope he's not, sent to jail for a long time. I think the question also is, we know Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself, and Ghislaine Maxwell gets 20 years, but where's all the people that raped these girls? Why is there nobody being prosecuted for rape? They have the airplane logs because they're rich and famous.
Yep.
They get off scot-free? Really? So kudos to Julian Assange, and I wish him the best.
Okay, cool. It's just that's the first time anybody's asked that, and I was like, yeah, that'd be interesting. Okay, well, here's one. Now, I'm asking this, and of course, I know you. I just from the 25 minutes we've been talking, I can tell that you're going to be flat out honest with me. But a lot of conservatives disagree with me on this topic. Now, what is your opinion on the legalization of recreational marijuana? Where do you stand on that?
So everybody knows where I stand on this.
Okay,
and let me give you a quick backstory before I answer.
Sure.
I co-sponsored medical marijuana in the House. We passed medical marijuana in the House, but the Senate couldn't get it done. Therefore, we had 3 referendums on initiative petitions on the ballot, and the least of the problematic of the 3 passed. But we should have done it the right way. I am opposed to recreational marijuana. You can look at states like Colorado, Washington, California. We don't need a bunch of stoned people out here trying to go to work, driving down the highway. Look, I was raised in the 70s, okay? I've seen pot. I know pot. And I hate pot. And people don't need to be smoking it unless for a medical condition. It's kind of like alcohol. I don't drink alcohol. And but if they want to, it's legal. But it's like I am opposed to it, and Representative Ron Hicks had a bill, and I'm sorry, it's just a bad idea in my opinion only, and people can disagree with that. But I will tell you where I stand is a big fat no.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I'm trying to think of some other topics so we all... Okay. So here's a question. I saw that the governor had mentioned something about doing a special session on relaxing some of the taxes here in the state. Did that just go away, or what's the deal with that? Or did it happen? I haven't seen anything else on it.
No, we're going to do it. It'll probably be mid-September in conjunction with our veto session, which is always the second Wednesday of September by Constitution. I like this thing called the U.S. Constitution and Missouri Constitution. I think we should follow it. But when we voted to pass the gas tax, which I was also a no on, I think we violated the Missouri Constitution and the Hancock Amendment. And then we got this convoluted refund form, which I just sent in this week, because by golly, I don't like taxes, and I like lowering taxes. So I'm getting my gas tax refund. And if any of your listeners want an Excel spreadsheet that calculates it and tracks it for you, just call or email my office in Jeff City, and I will send it to you. But, July 1, it went up 1. It doubled from 2.5 cents to 5. And then it's going to go up more and more and more and more. So I've been on MoDOT's butt all week, and I'm not happy. Representative Basie and I are seeing a lot of waste. I'm out picking up litter. I have to report their street lights out. I have to report signs down. The I-70 and 63 interchange is one of the busiest in the state of Missouri, right in the heart of my district. And you can't read the signs. You don't know where I-70 west to Kansas City or I-70 east to St. Louis is because you can't read the signs. So back to the governor, to your question. He wants to extend, I believe, tax credits on farmers. So I support agriculture, number 1 industry in the state, right? We like to eat, right? Here's the thing. Tax credits have a place, but I like them for the shorter period. I believe, if I recall, we passed it for like a 2-year period, and he wants it for a 6-year period. So maybe we'll compromise down to 3 or 4. I don't know. I don't know where we're going to land. But let me tell you, the Democrats wanted to call it special session because they can't read the law, and they can't understand English very good. When I voted for the heartbeat bill back in 19, that if Roe v. Wade was overturned back to the states where it rightly should belong, it is not in the Constitution. I am pro-life. that they can't understand. Yes, you can have birth control. Yes, if you have a miscarriage, they can go in there and take care of what's going on with the woman's health. And if you have an ectopic pregnancy, which is in your fallopian tubes, that is not an abortion. That is a health crisis, and that is legal and allowed under Missouri law. But I don't know what part of no they don't understand. So they're just pandering to their base. They're just trying to get TV time. But if they'd actually read the law, maybe they would understand it.
Okay,
So we'll see what else the governor wants us to bring up in special session. It makes sense to do it at the same time because they pay us every day we're in Jeff City. And I'm one of these people that don't like to waste taxpayers' money. So, in fact, I'm a taxpayer watchdog.
Okay, on the subject of taxation then, what are your thoughts on personal property tax? Because I absolutely hate them, and nothing would please me more to see them vanish into thin air. But what are your thoughts on the personal property tax?
I would love to get rid of it. And, you know, I'm driving around in a 10-year-old car with 220,000 miles on it. But you know what my local county assessor said? Well, there's such a shortage of vehicles now. Your old car with over $200,000 is now worth more instead of less. So we're going to tax you more because we're going to assess you higher. What about farm equipment and motorcycles and boats and four-wheelers and everything else? Your cows, your sheep, everything is tax, personal property. And I'm all for getting rid of it. But here's the flip side. You're going to hear the schools and the counties and the cities screaming bloody murder. How are we going to replace that revenue? Well, it could be gradual, enacted in slowly. Or you could have any car over 10 years old, or this, that, or the other thing, or anybody over the age of 65, or, there's various ways you could look at this to not just drop it on the public entities that rely on that money overnight. Let's phase it in. Let's do it. Let's get it done. We are keep talking about lowering income tax. I'm all for that too. Let's be like Florida, Texas, Tennessee. Let's get rid of even our state income tax. But we got to make sure in the Missouri Constitution you have a balanced budget. And we do, and we always have. We cannot spend more than we take in. So let's get rid of personal property tax, but we have to do it in a smart way.
Yeah, because Senator Bill Eigel had a proposal to drop it at the rate of inflation and move it out that way. He's like, the higher the inflation, of course, the faster it leaves. And they just didn't like it. They wanted him to. They said, "Well, just do it in St. Charles County." I'm like, "Yeah, of course." They hope it fails, so they can point and laugh at you and say, "Ha ha! See, it won't work." I hope it does. I hope it does. Somebody just. Oh, now I lost it. Okay, I don't know the numbers, so I've heard rumors that this gasoline tax, a lot of that money, MoDOT's not even going to get. Is that true? Or, I'm just I'm seeing all these different things, but I can't find the facts.
So I was just listening to my local conservative talk radio station out of Columbia. I could give their call numbers if you want me to. But anyway, their morning host was just throwing those numbers out. They had talked to Director of Revenue Wayne Wallingford, former senator, former state rep. He actually sat in front of me, and we became friends. And she threw out a number that we're going to get in revenue. And then how few people are going to apply for that refund. And so what I hated about this whole convoluted refund is the state of Missouri had to hire more employees who get full-time benefits and up-teen holidays and vacation sick leave and are never at work. And in fact, a lot of state employees are still working from home, including MoDOT. That just really gets up my craw, let me tell you. But they're going to get plenty of money. They have buckets of money. They have more money than they know what to do with. Missouri is a receiving state, and what that means is the money we send to Washington, D.C., we get more money back, and so then we send in. And so for every X number of dollars we spend on highways, the federal government matches that probably 10 times over. Don't quote me on the numbers. I'm just flying off the top of my head here. But anyway, MoDOT's got money. They've got plenty of buckets of money. They just need to spend it wisely and they can't. It's just I get so upset talking about MoDOT.
Well, my thing was when the gasoline tax was being brought up for the umpteenth time, and I'm like, we voted it down 3 times. What's your problem? Why are you so insistent on passing this? But then I'd see audits where they're like, oh, this year you misspent $1.6 million. This year you misspent $2.1 million. This year you misspent $700,000. I'm thinking, if year after year they're misspending hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, I mean, come on. You don't think if you would have held on to that money, maybe you wouldn't have such a problem? But, the amount of money they spent out to put people on paid disciplinary leave or, education on child seats and all this stuff, I'm like, why are we blowing through this money?
Exactly. The state, any government wastes so much money. It is just unbelievable. Government has core things it must do, such as public safety, roads, but you don't need to waste the money, and I think they need annual audits and in-depth, audits. For an example, my colleague, Representative David Gregory, when he came in the House with me back in 2017, he audited the Department of Revenue and found them $37 million in savings. You don't hear about that, but we need to be auditing every state department. I have found there is a division in Missouri government that before COVID, their employees all worked from home. They never came to an office. I drove all the way to Kansas City to walk in their office. Their security guard and janitor maintenance man, they didn't know what they looked like because they never came to work. So they go and moonlight at other full-time jobs on state payroll with state benefits, and they do nothing. That is a disservice to the taxpayers and the citizens of this state. I mean, I screamed loud and hard, but it got nowhere.
Okay, and another thing, I just saw a news article today that said the state of Missouri has a $4.9 billion surplus, which is a new record over last year. So is that a stepping stone to looking at other representatives and saying, hey, this is 2 years in a row that we've had a pretty good chunk of a surplus? Can we start taking tax, decreases seriously and decreasing the tax burden on the public if 2 years in a row we've had a couple of $1 billion at least in a surplus? Is this a way, kind of a stepping stone to get this taken more seriously, do you think? Or are they just going to be like, but next year we might not have a surplus? Are they going to come up with some wine ball excuse?
So you're absolutely right. And so before I was in the House, they did pass a formula that as state revenues increased, that our state income tax would decrease. But it's just like a tiny smidgen of a tiny bit. And so this is one of the things the governor is proposing is to cut more income taxes. But you're absolutely right. Cut taxes. But a lot of that current surplus has to do with all that influx of the federal COVID monies, that every political subdivision in every 50 state got, that all these entities have more money than they know what to do with. They don't know how to spend all this money, including the state of Missouri. In fact, the House, we wanted to give $1,000 one time back to every taxpayer who paid in up to $1,000 in state income tax. Oh, no, the Senate thought that was too much. And then the Senate lowered it to $500 per taxpayer, but the governor vetoed it. So we get zero, those of us that work. I work 4 jobs 7 days a week. I pay a lot. But, let's not help the working man. Let's just keep giving free stuff. Yeah, yes, you are right, sir. Let's lower taxes. We've got a surplus. In fact, during COVID, state revenues were up. Just the opposite of where everybody in their scared little basement thought the world was coming to an end. No, we were doing fine.
Yeah, I did see when that bill was proposed, and the one big crybaby knee-jerk reaction to it is the proposal said if you had a actual state income tax burden, those are the people who would get a return. The people who did not have a tax burden would not get a return. And that, to me, look where the disconnect was, where people were like, well, what about all these poor people? And, the guy's like, they don't pay state income tax. Why would we give them a refund on tax they didn't pay in? We should give this to people who actually have the tax burden, and they, were apoplectic and, oh my God. And I'm thinking, this is just the same old nonsense. You guys, in order to preserve your power and get your money, you are willing to just take taxpayer money and throw it at people so they keep reelecting you so you can do absolutely nothing. It drives me absolutely bonkers.
Me too. And that, of course, came from the Democrats. And, we've expanded Medicaid now, and there's no working requirement. You're a healthy, able-bodied 19 to 64-year-old, and you can have free health care. And then what we're so worried about was people who are already on food stamps or get subsidized housing and this and free telephones and free this and free that. I'm like, what about us working people? We don't get anything for free. We work hard for what we have. And then we're taxed to death. That's what started the Tea Party back in around 2010. So, we're tired of it.
Yeah, it was.
They should be working, volunteering, picking up litter or something to get free stuff.
Yeah, as we look at other states like, I hate to bring it up, but like California, what's going on there? And people, there are people in California who are fed up. Even people you wouldn't think, even some of the people on the left are like, okay, this is getting completely ridiculous as far as the crime rate and everything. And then, you have these high-profile crimes, and then the governor or the district attorney decides, I'm not going to really prosecute them. And people are like, why are they doing this? Now, I like Ron Paul's answer to this. Ron Paul says it's in order, they're creating chaos because that's the only way that Marxism and socialism can thrive is in a chaotic environment where lawlessness is pervasive and the law-abiding people get trampled on because they want their Marxism, they want their socialism. It can't thrive in a free market economy where people feel safe and prosperous. We have to create this corrosive, toxic environment so these socialist utopian idiots can come out of the woodwork and go, we can make it better with government. And people get so fed up, they just go, fine, just fix it. And they throw up their hands. It's like, please don't ask your government to solve your problems. You should be asking your government to get the hell out of the way. Please stop asking government to fix things for you because that's really not their job. I mean, sure, government has its place, but again, as we both stated here, it's far overreaching, but it's I think it's an important lesson because we do have people in the state of Missouri who think California is doing it the right way, and that's the crap we got to protect ourselves from. Is that?
Well, let's hope they move to California that think that way, and the fear is people flocking out of California to say Texas, Florida, Missouri, or anywhere. Don't keep voting blue. Stay where you're at if that's what you want. Don't come to our red states. We don't want that.
Yeah, it's fine if you move here, but keep your Democrat bag, your socialist baggage. Leave that luggage at the airport and bring your freedom baggage with you.
I was on a trip to Los Angeles, and people kept asking me, well, what are the prices of houses in Missouri and cost of living? Because they were seriously wanting to get the hell out of there and move to a nice, where it's safe, lower taxes, affordable, and get away from all that, communism regime out there. But don't bring it here. But I can tell you, I know a lot of people personally that are leaving Illinois to Missouri.
Yeah. When I worked at a local tobacco shop here several years ago, and I had a customer that would come in once every day or every other day. But anyway, he lived in Illinois, and he drove a tractor trailer, and his route came right through my town. And he's like, oh, I live in Illinois. He's like, the only reason I'm there is because my parents live there. He's like, when they're gone, I'm moving back across the river. So I would give him heck all the time. I'd give him flack. Like one day, it was like a few days after Thanksgiving, I'm like, oh, did you get your turkey soup for Thanksgiving from your Stalinist state? And he's like, well, Well, kind of. He goes, they hung the turkey up and then poured hot water through it, and whatever hit the bowl, that's what we got. So, yeah, he hated. So, if he wanted to get his cigarettes or his gasoline, he would cross the river, fill up his vehicle, get his cigarettes, and drive back across the river in Illinois. He didn't buy half that high-tax stuff in his own state. He came across into Missouri to buy stuff, and I'm like, I bet you there's a lot of people on any border, north, south, east, west, that are doing the same thing. If they can go somewhere and get it cheaper, they're going to. If it's not a hella drive to get there.
Well, if I have to drive to the East Coast, I just get through Illinois as quick as possible without speeding, of course,
yes.
And I don't stop.
Yeah, there's only one reason I've been to Illinois, and that's because Pops, which is in Sauget, a little like nightclub, they have some of my favorite metal bands go there, and I go there to watch a concert. But as soon as that concert's over, I'm right back across the bridge because it's 3 or 4 minutes, and you're there, you cross the bridge, and you're right there. I don't hang around. I get out of Dodge very quickly because I'm like, I don't want the communism like staining me and never getting the stench off. I don't need that in my life. I have enough problems. Trying to think of any other topic that I'd like to cover, but we've hit all the main ones that I always ask Okay, so let's delve into this a little bit because this is becoming a hot topic. The electric cars, the green energy, the things. Have you seen people working on things like this in the state of Missouri, trying to push the green energy and all this crud through at the state level?
Yeah, of course, I keep referencing back to Columbia. They want to hit certain percentage marks. But something along that line. Coming through the whole northern state part of the state, there's this thing called, originally named, the Greenbelt Express, where they want to take windmill energy from Kansas, run it across Missouri to Indiana. But they want to use eminent domain and take farmers' land away from them to do this. And my constituents up in the Randolph County area were adamantly against it, Monroe County, and on and on and on. Well, guess what I just found out this week? They're pulling a fast one. They're lying. They keep changing names and changing tactics. Now the state of Illinois won't let them run through their state to get to Indiana. So they have to change their plan. But you know what? We changed the law, but it doesn't go into effect till this August 28th. So they filed a notice with the Public Service Commission that their intent is to change their plan, which has to be approved by the Public Service Commission. And now they've somehow hooked up with Ameren. They want to go, instead of across the whole state of Missouri, they want to go through my Randolph County, Monroe County, drop down to just north of me in Audrain County, over to Callaway, right by I-70, and hook into some big thing that Ameren is trying to partner with. Well, the people in Audrain and Callaway are all up in arms. Those are farmland. They want to take their heritage farms that their family been on for generations. And there's a meeting in Mexico next week. And I'm like, nobody knew about this. It's like all under the wire. So I called my PSC liaison yesterday. The media wants an answer from me, what my comment is. I said, I don't even know what you're talking about. So I had to do my research, find out, and it's like they're trying to slide it in that they will file something and be sneaky to change their plan. And I hope the Public Service Commission denies it. And there better be an uproar of the people, because it's not right. This clean energy is ruining things. And what are they going to do with these electric car batteries? And what are they going to do when they can't get to plug in? I'm all about the old Sarah Palin, drill, baby, drill, make us energy independent. We got plenty of oil, natural gas, coal. Use it. Get our gas down to about $2 a gallon again.
Yeah, I agree. Now, I've got a question here from a live stream viewer. He's asking, would you be in favor of getting rid of the homestead tax?
I'm not exactly sure what that is.
Okay, well,
can you tell me what that is?
I don't know. I'm asking Warrior Class 3. Can you type in what the homestead tax is? Because I'm not familiar with it either, and then we'll jump back to that.
I could Google real quick, but I'm sorry, I don't want to give an answer and not be informed. of
Oh no,
exactly what I'm talking about.
Let me see what I can find here real quick.
Can I do a Jim Psaki and circle back?
Oh man. Woo, here we go. Here we go.
You didn't know what you were getting into with me, did you?
I didn't. This is the most lively conversation that I've had with anybody running for state office or otherwise. This is the most lively conversation. I'm enjoying the heck out of it. Don't get me wrong. This is the most lively.
I've spent my life. I'm a Ronald Reagan Republican. I turned 18, and the first president I voted for was Ronald Reagan. And you know what made me a Republican? Jimmy Carter.
Oh yeah, well, that'll turn a lot of smart people away from the Democrat. Okay, so. He's basically saying that real property that you live on, would you be in favor of just getting rid of the tax on, basically the property that you live on? I guess if you have acreage and a house on it, would you be in favor of just eliminating the tax on that property?
So just going off the top of my head, there's again the flip coin. What is going to affect the schools, the cities, the roads? So I know there's been different things, like for veterans or people over age 65 or whatever. So again, I'd have to study it, but there needs to be some kind of lower reduction of taxes in general. And assessed valuations keep going up in certain areas where I'm from, and it's just astronomical. Every year, my house that I've lived in over 20 years, it keeps getting more expensive and my taxes keep going up, but my house is getting older and older and older. So when's it ever going to stop, or at least go down? It never goes down. Something does have to give.
Yeah, you're talking about your car and stuff earlier, and this is something that I try to drive into people when I say when certain things like, when COVID hit and of course the sales taxes were going to revenue was going to decline, and I told people, I was like, it's government. They will figure out a way to get that money back. If they're not getting it through the sales tax, they'll get it through from personal property or property taxes or something. They will not let that money just go. They're not going to wait until the economy, quote unquote, recovers and then start getting some of that sales tax revenue back. No, they're going to figure out a way to get their money. They can't live without. Well, they act like they can't live without it. They can't be like us normal Joes and learn to live, by their means, and just if they need to lower their spending, they got to lower their spending that month. They can't do that. They got to keep pouring pee out of a boot, or pouring money down a rat hole or whatever. But yeah, and when we're talking about this personal property tax thing, this is, to me, the real issue is not that. A lot of people want their taxes lowered. That's not the issue. The issue is educating people on, hey, we're one of 21 states that has a personal property tax, and we're third highest out of 21. There are 29 other states that don't have a personal property tax. They still have schools. They still have roads. They still have bridges. Anybody ever thought about contacting them and see how they do it? No, people throw up their hands. They freak out and like, oh, my God, the schools are going to suffer. The schools suck already for the most part. Look at how they educate your kids now. You think like drying up some of that money might make them rethink their whole thing? Something. You got to do something. But no, we'll just continually feed out these people's wallets every week and at the end of every year, and then go, oh, woe is me. We just don't have enough money. Well, good. I live for the day where government goes, we're just out of money. Awesome. Great.
Well, can I tell you a good story? When I was mayor for 4 years, we rolled back our property tax levy. We could have set it higher, but we budgeted wisely. And I'm proud of the fact we rolled back our property tax and lowered it 4 years straight when I was mayor, because we could do it, because we budgeted wisely. But also when I was mayor, we had the lowest sales tax in Boone County of all cities, and we even participated in the back-to-school sales tax, which is coming up the first weekend in August for back-to-school supplies, clothes, computers, etc. As soon as I left office as mayor, they got 2 new sales taxes. They want to do a third sales tax, and they did away with the back to school tax exemption. I'm like, what in the heck? I work so hard to keep us affordable low taxes. I get out of office and it goes up, 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 up.
And that there is, my wife and I were discussing this morning on the way to work. We were talking about the primaries and the like, and I told her, I said, the problem isn't necessarily just the people running for office. It's that people don't educate themselves. So like in your case, you decide to run for state office or what have you. The next people coming in, how many people researched what these people stood for when they voted for their next mayor? Did they think to ask, hey, would you like to, are you going to take away these taxes? You're going to re-raise these taxes? What do you think about taxes? No, most people don't ask those questions. It's like people get too comfortable when things are going well, and they tend to forget how it used to be and how bad it could get again. And they get too comfortable, and they just kind of get a little bit lazy in their research and keeping tabs on either their local or state or county governments or whatever. They tend to forget that, hey, at any time, this ugly monster can rear its head again and turn around and bite us right in the butt like they were doing before, these people were in office. And it's the same way with so many other things. So just a quick pause. For those of you in the KEYK audience, thank you so much for joining me this week for the Missouri Liberty Report. Next week, I will have on Catherine Moody Dreyer. She is a libertarian running for state office. So make sure you check that one out. But again, thank you to all who tune in every week. And don't forget, you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on YouTube with the same name. Just look up Missouri Liberty Report, and we'll see you all next week. All right, so continuing on, I just wanted to cut there. I got to cut at 56 minutes for my Lake of the Ozarks station, and I can just roll on.
Can I add that how important school board elections are?
Yes,
We've looked for years to move the April elections to November so we'd have higher turnout. All the bond issues to get passed, but the woke school boards, people are finally waking up and seeing when they found their kids were not getting back in school, they were masking kids in school. It should be the parents' choice if they want their kid to wear a mask in school or not. And Columbia didn't get back in session till April of 2021 when all the other Boone County schools and surrounding them in Missouri were back in the fall of 2020. And the children are being hurt so bad in so many ways. And again, I feel Republicans are being reactive and not proactive, but how important school board elections are.
And so when we're talking about schools here, I know some people, okay, so I'm not a libertarian, I'm not a card-carrying Libertarian Party member. Now, I do prescribe to the non-aggression principle and some of the things where they're talking about the Department of Education and things. Now, the Libertarians have the same problem that you guys have between the Conservative Caucus and the Rhinos. There's just a lot of infighting and things don't get done. And some of them, when you talk about charter schools or school vouchers, some of them, oh, that's not the right way. And some libertarians are like, it's a good step forward to get to the end goal of what we want. We can do this incrementally. So what are your thoughts on school vouchers or charter schools, things of that nature?
When I came into the legislature 6 years ago, I wasn't that familiar with charter schools because they're only in Kansas City and St. Louis. But once I got in there, I have 3 rural school districts and Columbia School District, and I was like, OMG, we need a charter school in Columbia, especially north of I-70. I have the highest minority, the lowest income, single parent. Their parents are dead. They're in prisons. I have the 2 gangs shooting and killing each other. These kids don't have a chance. I am now a true believer of total school vouchers, school choice. People are flocking out of public schools, just like my own grandchildren, and either being homeschooled, private school, religious school. We passed the ESA. That's just a tiny, tiny fraction. You either have to have an IEP, you either have to be low income, or other things. And it's only a start. We could do so much more for our children. People are flocking public schools in these urban areas. Rural schools are 99% great, but it's starting to infiltrate there too. parents should have the choice. We pay the taxes, and they should send their kids where they want to send their kids.
Yeah,
too much feedback. There's too much pushback.
Yeah.
Not only NEA and school boards and principals associations. No way will they let that happen.
Yeah, because I've seen polls where even minority parents in these bigger cities, once their kids had to stay home, and they were doing everything by Zoom or whatever, and they saw the education their kids were getting, even a lot of minority couples were like, "Screw this, we're homeschooling from now on. This is utterly ridiculous how they're educating our children." So even in the minorities, they're starting to see how crap the school districts are, and they're pulling their kids out.
Yep.
Now, again, you get into the urban areas, St. Louis, Kansas City, where you have the poor neighborhoods and the high crime rates. I mean, how does government, some of these people in government, expect the kids to get a good education when there's actual danger around the school? So they've already got that environment that they live in, and all their whole answer is pay the teachers more, throw more money at the school. It's not working. The graduation rates, the grade rates it's not reflecting. It never reflects that if, hey, we just throw more money at the schools, they'll do better. They just throw more money at the schools.
Have no chance.
Right.
And you know what was interesting? Kansas City schools weren't accredited for the last 10 years. And they got accredited earlier this year, is my understanding. And they think that's good. It took them 10 years. But now DESE, which needs a total revamping, total new leadership, is a mess that they're going to let people slide on accreditation. Well, we're just going to give you more time, and we're not going to count things against you. I'm like, what? This is crazy. These kids don't have a chance.
Yeah, it's sad, and I mean, my kids are out of school now, and I'm super happy about that they're not. It was in Owensville. It's not bad, but we have some school districts that are half hour, 45 minutes away, and the wokeness is starting to encroach, and it's been encroaching there, and I'm like, yeah, give it time. If people around here aren't paying attention, it's going to creep in unless the parents stand up and go, if you do that, you'll all be fired. Guaranteed, you'll be fired. I mean, when California has school board members being kicked off, you gotta be doing some crazy crap in California to make parents that mad where you're like, you're getting recalled and you're out. I mean, what are you doing in California to make parents recall school board members? My imagination probably won't even take me that far. Holy crap. That state is...
Well, and it's not just Kansas City, St. Louis. Springfield is terrible. Columbia is terrible. Yeah. But it's creeping out. And we've got to be careful. Parents need to be proactive, and we need to, again, elect good school boards, and we need to be involved and see what our kids are learning and see what they're studying and doing. You know, Wentzville and St. Charles and Eureka and all over. I'm on statewide different Facebook groups of the horror stories these parents tell me. They call me. They cry on my shoulder. I have a person who has to lie and rent a place in an adjoining school district to send their kids there, even though they don't live there. You know, we tried to do, if you own land in a different school district, you could send your kids to that school. You know, so we're trying to slowly do it, but it needs to be faster. We need to think of the kids.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. It's just, you know, the problem is, it's just like everything that involves government or supposedly something that's socialistic in nature, is that we didn't get here overnight. We're not going to fix it overnight either, but that's what people got to understand. It's such a slow creep that something hits and you're like, oh, and then they forget, and then it creeps a little more, and it creeps a little more, and it creeps a little more. It's like, listen, we didn't get here overnight. And now that we understand how we got here, we can't fix it overnight, but we sure can take some strong first steps to announce to the world that we're not dealing and putting up with your weirdness. If your kid wants to poop in a kitty litter box, a litter box, do that at home. But if they're in this school, they're going to act like somewhat normal people. Oh my God! If I
talk English, don't bark and meow. and make the parent, is the parent paying for the kitty litter? Is the parent coming to the school to clean the litter box? No, the taxpayers are.
And I'm sorry, if I'm a janitor in a school and they're like, oh, yeah, there's a big litter box in there you got to clean out, I'm quitting immediately. I'm like, you got to be kidding. You can go in there and scoop that. Here's the gloves. Here's the scoop. No. Not no, but hell no.
But they can't speak out. Retaliation.
No. Yeah.
It's all confidential. It's student privacy. If they speak up or speak out, that's why I have to be their voice. That's why they have to come talk to me to be their voice, because they can't lose their job, their health insurance and whatever, because they know they would be dismissed if they said anything. It's ludicrous. People are shocked when I tell them this. It's not an urban legend. It is not a myth. It is true.
Yeah, listen, I've been doing this whole thing I've been in this mindset that I'm in now for like the last 14 or 15 years. But I have to admit, even there were things I was speaking out about years ago that have come true, and people looked at me like, you're insane. And now I'm like, who's insane? I didn't even picture some of this stuff. Some of this stuff I'm like, I didn't even think this stupidity was going to encroach, where kids could act like animals and so on. I guess because I just never smoked enough crack to get my brain that fried to imagine that we
Hunter
get
Biden
here.
did that for you.
Yeah, he did.
He did.
I'm kind of disappointed I haven't got my free crack pipe yet either. I'm a little disappointed they forgot about me. I was just going to resell it to somebody else and make some money, but no, I never.
Well, you could do oil paintings like he does, make $500,000 off of them.
I guess I could. I mean, anything's possible. The only thing I can draw is flies, but everything's worth a shot. If you get a side hustle going, I could smoke crack and sell oil paintings, and I guess.
Now, can I bring up one more hot topic that's kind of starting to go nationwide? That's hitting Missouri, and again, this time maybe we're going to be proactive. And if I say it wrong, I apologize. I think it's the ESG, this wokeness of like banks, that you have to meet certain energy. You had asked about, green energy. And so we have looked at legislation. There will be some filed. And, you've heard of BlackRock, and Glenn Beck spews this all the time, that, if you're not so green in your company, they're not going to lend you money. And so we have a couple of bankers in the House, and they're taking the lead on that. So people have their expertise, and we like to defer to people who have the background and knowledge, in these committees and bills and hearings and things, that they know what's going on in that field. And so that's one of the things we will be talking about coming up this coming year.
I forgot. I've been hearing it on a couple of, like the Ron Paul podcast and a couple others. I've been hearing about it, and I hadn't heard anything. I should have expected it, but I hadn't read anything like, hey, they're looking at this in Missouri. Because it's going to be nationwide. That should have been common sense to me. It just never registered that this. I've been hearing a lot. You see what goes on in like Sri Lanka. Now you got the Netherlands, where the farmers are literally spraying manure into the government buildings, rightfully so, because of what they're doing with fertilizer, like what they did in Sri Lanka. No more chemical fertilizer. Bam. And then 60% or 40% drop in their crop, the crops that they yield. And these people are living day to day. And, they literally, now I'm not saying it's all right, but I understand they go to the president's ground. I think they burned the prime minister's house down or something. The military did not have enough people to hold them back. Here's my point from all that.
Right.
In this country, what we saw during COVID, what people endured during COVID, we should be taking some cues from the people in Europe, because when those people get mad, they mass in a huge fashion. Now, they don't even hardly tear anything up, but they make their voices heard, and it's like, I wish enough people in this country would get like that, because it seems like the only big groups of people we can get are when they're mad because of whatever, and they start burning cities to the ground. That's the only type you
Yeah,
get.
the 400 riots in 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm so glad former officer David Dorn's murderer was convicted, and this war on police, because the good thing about Republicans, we do back the blue, and public safety, it should be number one. And but again, comes back to the Second Amendment. Don't think when you're on the phone with 911 and someone's breaking into your house, that you're waiting for somebody to show up. You're on your own.
I'm glad you said that, because that's something. I have family members that aren't, they're like, oh, when the newest version of the concealed carry license was renewed, and I was like, oh, there's going to be bloodshed everywhere. I'm like, get out of town. We already got bloodshed in like St. Louis and Kansas City. You think it's going to get worse? Don't be that stupid. But I tried to convey to them that, would you rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it? And if you live in an urban environment, yeah, like around where I live, the cops may show up very quickly. But if you live in a big city, it may be 10, 15 minutes. Do you expect the person who's encroaching on your property, if you holler out, now wait a minute, you got 10 minutes, I got 10 minutes. You think they're going to listen to you? Like, come on, man. Sometimes it seems like people have two brain cells to rub together, and that's it on these topics. We've been led to believe that the cops will just show up and save your life, even though we have Supreme Court rulings that said the cops don't have to protect you if they don't want to. Hence the whole
I've
Uvalde
heard that
thing.
Many times.
Yeah, the whole Uvalde thing is a perfect example. What did those cops do? 77 minutes before they went after the guy. They
just have to come in and do a report after the fact.
Yeah.
And did you know the Missouri law that passed in 2014 that schools can have armed administrators or teachers? There's a program they go through. In Missouri right now, there's, I believe, 24 schools that participate in this. And some of the more rural are more looking into it. And so, waiting for the police, if there's a school shooting in Missouri, these schools can be trained and armed. And they don't have to know who it is. Only the school board does. The school boards have to approve it. But there's 24 right now, and I hope that number increases.
Yeah, especially after seeing what happened in Texas, I would hope that number would increase dramatically as far as that goes, because, I told some guys at work, if I lived in Uvalde, I would be gathering a huge group of people and going to the next city council meeting and saying, if you don't get rid of every single officer who was there that day, then we'll fire you too. That should be swept clean and started over. There's I understand there's Supreme Court rulings, but when you take a job as a police officer, there's a known risk. And most of them want to protect. I don't know what happened down there. That seems so shady to me. It's just...
Yeah, something's not up. You think it's a red flag or something going on there. It was just too convoluted. But you don't hear enough about, like, the shopping mall was it Indiana, where the good guy with the gun stopped the bad guy with the gun?
Yep.
He was like, 40 feet away, shot him 8 times. He was concealed carry. I don't even know that they allow him in that mall, but thank goodness he had it on him.
Yeah, they don't allow it, and that was one of the disappointing things, like a day or two after that. Like, Channel 13's like, the guy who stopped the mall shooting wasn't supposed to be able to carry in there. It's like, well, I'm glad he broke the rules. And you should be, too.
He's a hero.
Because there was a stat where, of course, some of the mainstream media was trying to say that, well, what is it? They're like, well, only 5 or 6% of the time does a good guy with a gun stop a bad guy with a gun. And the guy doing the podcast goes, yeah, that's because 95% of mass shootings occur in gun-free zones. So, yeah, there's not armed people standing around, you nitwit. But I think
they don't get it.
I think we have to come to a point where these rules in certain areas, if you can conceal carry and you're not going to print and nobody's going to notice, I think it's almost a responsibility. I mean, you are taking a legal risk. I'm not saying you're not. that if we had more
Under
people.
Missouri law, my understanding is if you're carrying concealed and not one of the 17 places, you're not allowed. But if you go in and they have a sign posted, all they can do is ask you to leave.
Yeah, I believe that is correct, and I think it's incumbent upon people that, like, yeah, it's uncomfortable, and nobody wants to, think about anybody with common sense and a moral compass. I own several firearms. I don't like the thought that I would actually have to use that firearm against another human being, but I carry it for a reason, because in case somebody's having a seriously bad day, I have the ability to defend myself. I don't want to shoot somebody, but if I have the opportunity, or it falls on me to protect someone's life or property, then so be it. I just hope I never have to do it. And that's the way most people are, but this gets twisted around, and people who like guns are considered like, oh, everybody wants to be John Wayne. Like, no, they don't. There are a few nitwits out there with guns that, oh, I can't wait, I want to pull it on somebody. No, you think that until you actually have to. Then you're mentally traumatized for a while because you took someone else's life. The whole argument stinks to high heaven. I'm getting tired of hearing it, but you got to talk about it so people understand what angles the government are trying to run in on you to get you to concede and say, okay, maybe I'll give up this type of weapon. Don't give up any gun. It doesn't care. I don't care what it is. Don't give them up, because it starts with that, and then we end up like Australia. And look at their COVID madness they went through. That's something else. I think that's the only reason this country didn't go into an Australian-style lockdown, is because they know people are armed and they're not going to put up with that nonsense.
Did you and your listeners hear, I believe earlier this week, Scotland County Sheriff said the FBI came in and wanted them to give him this concealed carry list, and he's like, not only no, but hell no. I'm like, kudos to him.
Yeah,
we don't need to give that information to the federal government.
Didn't Eric Schmidt send a letter to the FBI saying you can't do that and we're not going to?
Yes, he did.
And I'm glad he did, because, I mean, when Nixon was governor, he got caught sending that information to a third party, and then they shared it with the feds. And it's like, that was illegal to begin with. He wasn't allowed to do that.
So we changed the law to make it to where it's each individual county sheriff now holds the records, not in a state database.
Good Lord. It was just funny because the blowback from that was little to none. He just did it, and everybody's like, oh. And it's like, what are you saying for? You should be highly ticked off that your governor shared the information with a third party. They didn't even share it with another government. Well, they did. It ended up going to the feds. They shared it with a third party, somebody it's nobody's business to begin with.
It's nobody's business.
But especially a private company. Why in the hell was he doing that? And it's like, oh, well, no, that's not, oh, well, it just make me want to drink, and I don't even really drink, but you make me want to drink. So any other topics you'd like to get into, Cheri?
Unless your listeners have any more questions, I can tell you one more short thing that I'm proud of passing, and the governor signed into law.
Okay.
I work some with criminal justice reform, and there's a fine line, crime and punishment. But there was a 2014 law that went into effect in 17, but one RISMO was left out by accident. I call it a crack in the law. I filed it for several years, and it had to do with non-violent drug offenders. Under the old law they were sentenced under, say a guy may have been sentenced to 25 years in prison, he had no eligibility for parole. But with the change in the law on all the other RISMOs, they would be eligible to go before the parole board after 10 years. So there was a Demetrius Woods case out of Columbia here in my district. They got a lot of statewide press coverage, and they had let him out. And he had been out 2 years, started a successful business in Columbia, and now he has 3 successful businesses. But they said, oh, no, we made a mistake. You have to go back to prison after being out 2 years. So I petitioned the governor to commute his sentence. I've worked well with Governor Parson. He has pardoned and commuted so many people under his tenure. He inherited over 4,000 requests for pardons or commutations under at least 3 or 4 previous governors. He has commuted 4 people for me and pardoned 1 person for me. But he's done so many more than that. But my law, what happened is this one didn't actually get signed into law, but he's been commuting to these people that have served at least 10 years of nonviolent drug offenses. He's looked at their file. If they've done well in prison, then he's let them out. One of the other criminal justice things I've done that was signed into law, would you believe government red tape? If you're a felon and you need to get out and get a job, get your life back, pay your child support and all this other, you can't work anywhere that sells lottery tickets. But if you work anywhere that sells alcohol, the employer has to fill out a piece of paper, send it to Jeff City, and all they did was throw it in a file cabinet. So now, under my new law, it was a part of Senate Bill 26 that passed last year. It's a big omnibus public safety bill. You can now work, say, a convenience store, a grocery store, anywhere that sells lottery. In my district in Columbia, we have a great program called Into Action. They take men that come out of prison, and they get them jobs, they get them a driver's license, get their life back in order. And I have 2 people. One can ride his bike to the local convenience store, and another one can walk to another convenience store, and they love their job. I had a call out of Springfield a couple of years ago, and he'd heard about my bill. I called it the Employer Freedom Bill. Employers should be able to hire anybody they want to hire. Just because you're a felon, that should be your choice as a business owner if you want them to work for you or not. He said, ma'am, I worked at a local convenience store for a year. My bosses loved me. I loved my job. Then they found out I was a felon, and they had no choice but to fire me because of the Missouri law. That's all off the books now. People are working, and you know how many people have help wanted signs at, like, convenience stores? The Petroleum Marketer group backed this bill, supported this bill. It was bipartisan. Everybody loved it. It was unanimous out of the House, and it was a good jobs bill.
Yeah, that I have no problem. That's my thing, especially with nonviolent offenses, whether they're misdemeanor, if they've served jail time. The thing that bugs me is people love to say, well, everybody deserves a second chance, but if these people, especially nonviolent offenders, go to jail, well, then nobody hires them because of laws or whatever. I'm like, you can't on one hand say, well, we'll give them a second chance, and then make it nigh impossible for them to find employment, except in the absolutely lowest paying jobs that are out there. It's like you want them to get out, you want them to succeed, but we have these things in place that makes it really hard for them to do so, if not impossible to do. I have no problem with, making it easier for a felon who wants to turn his life around to get out there and get meaningful employment and grow as a person, or even become a business owner. We got to get off this, they're a criminal. Like, a lot of these guys don't want to go back. Some of them don't care, but there are many that go, that wasn't cool. I don't want to do that again. So I think it's in our best, as a human interest, to make sure they have the ability to get employment if they want it. And you're right.
We don't want recidivism. We want them to have a job.
Right.
And government needs to get out of the way and get these barriers and red tape out of the way.
Absolutely. Well, Cheri, it was a real pleasure talking with you. Now, your, I believe, what is it, Cheri44.com is your website for where you're, oh, wait, I got one more question here somebody just put up. What's your stance on the death penalty? Somebody wants to know your stance on the death penalty.
So, actually, biblically and morally, I am for the death penalty. A lot of people may not agree with that, but I tell people, in my eyes, in my district, it's been, 25, 30 years ago now, there was a man named Ernest Johnson, and he bludgeoned 3 Casey's convenience store employees to death with a claw hammer. And it took him on death row 25-plus years. But those 3 families, what about the victims? What about the victims' families? He killed 3 people because he needed crack or heroin or whatever. So in certain circumstances, proven beyond a reasonable doubt that you're guilty, have a severe, triple murder, yes.
Okay, fair enough. But your
All right.
your website is Cheri. That's CHERI44.com. Is that correct?
Yes, it's a little outdated. I don't update it very often. I'm too busy, saving the world. And if anybody wants to reach out to me, feel free. Cheri.Toalson-Reisch at house.mo.gov 573-751-1169, and I'll have a cup of coffee with you face to face. I do it all the time.
All right. Well, again, Cheri, thanks so much for joining me. It was a hoot. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I am at some point, hopefully, I bid on a new job at my work like 7 months ago, and I'm still waiting to move. But I eventually will get to the weekend shift, and in partnering with the Missouri Freedom Initiative, I'm hoping to make more trips to the Capitol and visit with some of the state reps on certain bills that we'd like to see get through. So I'm hoping here next legislative session I'll get to come up and hopefully get to meet you face to face and have a good conversation with you. But
I would love that. And I don't have beer or alcohol in my office, but I'll offer you a bottle of water. It's room 113. My door is always open to everybody.
Outstanding. And again, I don't think I really have to wish you luck because the way you talked about your redistricting, I think you're pretty much a shoo-in. But again, but anyway, best of luck in the election. Hope you win. And again, when you do, I will make sure when I make a visit to Jeff City, I will stop by your office, and that way I can meet you face to face and have a little talking. But again, great to talk to you. Have a great weekend, Cheri, and best of luck to you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right, folks, that was Cheri. Now, that was a fun interview. I don't agree with her on everything, but hey, that was she is a fireball. And sometimes you got to have fireballs in office. People, again, she just tells you how she feels. She gives you a reason. She tells you how she feels. You may not agree with her, but at least you know where she stands. And those people, to me, are way easier to work with than someone who wants to hem-haw around. So yeah, that was a good interview. I thoroughly enjoyed that. I'm trying to figure out what music I want to end the show with today, because I was looking at all kinds of stuff like, what do I want to play at the end of the show today? And I never figured it out. But I think I want to play something from I think I already played that. Dang it. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm dumber than a box of rocks. Oh, you know what? Let's play some Dio era Black Sabbath. I think everybody enjoys some Black Sabbath. Right? Or you better anyway, or something's wrong with you. You need a beating if you don't like Black Sabbath, especially if you don't like Ronnie James Dio era Black Sabbath. I like Ozzy Osbourne, but Ronnie James Dio, that's my bro. Let's see. Let's do Lady Evil. I really like Lady Evil. That's off the Heaven and Hell album. But before I go, thank you to everyone who joined in the live stream tonight. Nice, fiery banter going on with everybody. Appreciate the questions. Appreciate the comments, as always. To those of you who download, listen on the radio, watch the live stream, a big thank you to everyone. Please, if you know anybody else that's looking for the message of freedom and liberty, send them my way. Tell them to subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. Find me on Facebook. Message me. But I greatly appreciate all of you. I appreciate Sam and Trish Britton at molibertyradio.us. I appreciate KEYK, Lake of the Ozarks. I appreciate Darren Weeks at governamerica.com. And appreciate everybody at YouTube. I appreciate Patrick Holland and his group from the Missouri Freedom Initiative. All you folks, you're fine freedom-fighting folks. And I appreciate each and every one of you. But let's end the show on a good note with some RJD. And we'll do Lady Evil here to end the show. Have a great week, everyone. Have a great weekend. Next week, Catherine Moody Dreyer, Libertarian candidate for Missouri House of Representatives. That one's going to be good because she and I both play the bass guitar, so that'll be some interesting conversation as well. But anyway, have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next week. Take care. All right, guys. Again, great live stream. Thanks for hanging out with me again tonight. Appreciate it so much. You guys are awesome. You guys make this way easier. When When I used to live stream before, I'd get like 1 or 2 people. That was when I was on Facebook. I couldn't hardly get anybody in there. And you guys blow it up. Like, chat's just going and going and going. It's freaking amazing. Makes my job way easier, makes it more interesting for me. You guys help me think of topics. Greatly appreciate every single one of you. You guys do an amazing job. And you're doing great work for freedom. Let's not forget that. You guys are doing the good work. You're putting in the effort. And I'm just some lowly podcaster just doing interviews, which is awesome. I love it. I have to also admit that I started into the world of web development the other night because I am considering maybe moving into career change and getting out of the big, giant corporate factory world. But we'll see. We'll see where that goes. But that's what I'm hoping. At least maybe. Patrick, appreciate you too, man. You and your group do amazing stuff. And I'm hoping one of these days that I'm as good as you guys, because you guys rock it. Like I'm still learning. I'm still learning every day, but I'm meeting cool people. Cheri was just a joy to interview. I love someone who's fired up. That was awesome. I wish all my interviews could be like that. And I understand everybody's different. Their personalities are a little different, but really, really enjoyed myself. And like I said, Patrick, you and Voodoo and Ganai and Mad Mom, Gary, oh my God, I forgot his name. Warrior Class 3, Jonathan Ashley, all you guys. I think I mentioned Ganai. Hopefully I did. BH, Grandfoot, or Goatfoot Grand. Everybody just awesome. You guys are great. So anyway, have a great night, everybody. We'll see you next Friday with Catherine Moody Dreher. I think I'm getting her last name right. It's Dreher. But anyway,